What you guys, got another video here for you. In this one we're going to be taking a look at what makes your computer run slow and how you can address some of these issues. Now I get asked all the time, why is my computer running slow? And there's loads of reasons for it, so I'm going to try and cover some of these reasons for why your computer is running really slow. So first off, we're going to be dealing with the computer itself, the software side of things. So let's take a look at the hard drive. That's the first place you want to take a look at. So here you can see the hard drive is very full, and as you can see there's only 257 megabytes of space left on this drive, and it's running at full capacity. Now this is not very good for the drive at all, and it could end up in failure if you use it at full capacity for long period a little bit when it's running at full capacity like this, because it has no space to work with. So you could end up with a slow system by having the hard drive running at full capacity. So what I'd advise you to do is get yourself an external drive or something of that nature, and drag off some of those files onto that external drive and make room. Now this is quite common nowadays because of SSDs are so small and they're not as big as mechanical drives, and people tend to cheap out and buy an SSD like say for instance 128 gigabyte, and they soon fill that up and they don't have enough space on their drive. So definitely clean up that drive, okay, and remove this red feature here, so it's not red like this. So running at 90% here, over 90%, is real dangerous for the drive as well. So next up, what we're going to do is take a look at the good old cleanup tool, which is built into Windows and it has been for some time. So all we need to do is type clean in the search area here and you'll see disk cleanup. Click on this and this will calculate your drive and start scanning your drive. It may take some time, so be patient. Now once you get here, you will see a list of information that it can clean out. Now this is a virtual machine, but yours may be chugged with information on here that it needs to get rid of. So what you can do is you can put the ticks in a lot of this stuff here and remove it. You can see retail, demo, offline content, temporary files, and so on. So what you want to do is go through here, and this is going to give you back some space. So what you want to do next is click on the cleanup system files. This will then go do another scan, and it will start to take a look at some more information that you can remove from the computer. Now once that's finished its scan, you can then go into here and you'll see a tab up the top saying more options. You can now look into that tab and you will see we're going to put a tick back in here. It hasn't removed it yet, it's just doing a first scan of the system. So we're just going to go back in here and put the ticks into the stuff we want to remove, okay? Go into the more settings as well, and then from here you can see cleanup features, programs and features here. You can also do this and it will give you the option to remove and uninstall programs. Now if you've got a big long list of programs and some of this stuff you're not using, then start to uninstall a lot of these programs, and this is a simple case of just clicking on them and clicking on uninstall, and this will help you remove and uninstall unnecessary applications that are on your system that are taking up free space on your system. Now once you've done that, you can also hit this area here and you can delete the shadow copies and then create a new restore point, and this normally has loads of backups on here, shadow restore copies, which will take up a lot of space as well. Now you may have other options for old Windows files and stuff that you can remove. You can do that also. So I'm going to clean and delete all these files. Okay, that's now done. Now another program that might be useful to you, which is a little bit more advanced, is called CCleaner, and you can open this up and you can see there's a lot more options inside here to clean up rubbish on your computer, and it's called crap cleaner. Basically that's what the C stands for, and you can remove a lot of this stuff. So all you need to do is come in here and put the ticks in all the required areas that you want to remove. Now remember, there is also saved passwords. You'll see by default this is not ticked. Now if you do tick these, It's going to warn you if you don't have backups of these passwords. It's going to remove them from the system, so bear that in mind. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the passwords for certain forums or for certain sites, then you may need to get a copy of those and make sure that you know what they are before you start removing passwords. If you don't care and you know what they are, then you can put the ticks inside here. Also, you'll see some other areas on the Windows tab here, which allows you to remove other areas of rubbish on the system. And you can see here, wipe free space and all this sort of good stuff. You can go through here. Be very careful when you're using this feature, because obviously this is going to put some considerable strain on the drive, and also take a lot more time to clean up the drive as well. Okay, so you can tick some of these ones. These are more the advanced options. So prefetch is normally an area where you get lots of rubbish inside there, which you can clean out on a regular basis. Leave the registry cleaner alone. I don't like normally touching the registry cleaner, but tools, again, startup is another area which is a key area where you can remove startup programs, and this normally means that if you've got a long list of startup programs, these really do start to make the system boot up slowly. So if it's a boot up issue, then you can use the startup feature, and we can use other startup areas as well on the computer itself, and also auto runs and stuff like that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to come down here to the options, and if you look at advanced here, you've got a few areas here that you can have a look at. And also, if you want to come into the settings area, just be very careful here when you're looking at secure deletion. You'll see some more areas of wiping, okay, deep cleaning, and you can see here these are more complex cleaning, and this scrubs the drive basically to make recovering data impossible. So if you are going to be doing any of these, it will add a considerable amount of time onto cleaning the computer. Also here you've got wipe alternative data streams, wipe cluster tips and all that sort of good stuff. But if you don't want to do any of that stuff, just leave it on the normal deletion, which is pretty okay for most people, unless you are a little bit paranoid, and you can go into the more secure deletion. Once you're happy with all them settings, you can click on the applications tab here and go through here and have a little look at some of the stuff here. You can click on analyze, and then you can click on run cleaner, and this will run the cleaner and clean off any junk or garbage left on the computer from your browsing and stuff like that. And that's now complete. Okay, so let's move on to the desktop here. Now, if you've got loads of stuff on the desktop, and I'm not talking about shortcuts like this one here with a little arrow on there. If you've got a little arrow, this just means it's a shortcut. But if you've got folders on here like this with movies in them, you can see this one is empty. But if this was full of movies and it's on your desktop, and there's say 20 gigs of content inside here, that's going to have to load up on boot up, and it's going to slow the process up. Okay, so make sure you don't have loads of stuff on your desktop, i.e. ISOs, Windows ISOs and stuff like that are stored on the desktop itself. So if you're looking inside here and you're going to desktop and you've got loads of content in here which is actually stored inside the desktop location, you want to start to move that to a location, i.e. onto an external drive or onto another partition or another part of the drive which is not on the desktop, which doesn't load up, i.e. into documents or something like that, and you should be fine. Okay, so let's move on to the browser, and we're going to take a look here at some other options. Now, another thing that happens with a lot of people, they have a lot of tabs open, and as you can see here, I have multiple tabs open in one browser, and these are all open to the same site, of course, but people have these open for many different sites, and I've gone to people's computers and have these opening up on startup, and they also have a load of these opened up here on the desktop, and they never close them down. And this is another common problem with computers, and this will slow up the system eventually. It uses a lot of memory, and if we take a look here, right click on the taskbar and go into Task Manager, you will see a box pop up here, and we can go down here to more details, And if we take a look, just let me leave this open, and if you have a look here, it's using a hell of a lot of memory up. You can see all these, the amount of memory that is running to have all these windows open here. So remember guys, if you're having all these windows open and you're trying to play games or anything like that, you've got to be careful because your system is going to start to slow up because it's going to start to have issues with all these windows being open. Now obviously by closing these, it's going to cause the system to regain a lot of that memory. So if we close this up, so let me just open this up here and we'll close this up, and you'll see this starting to close off all those windows, and you see we regain a lot of memory back here because there was so much memory being used by having all those windows open. So just remember, by having all those windows open, that will slow up your system, and there's nothing you can do but close all those and have them open in favorites. So go back into your bookmarks and open them up that way, and then close them, and that way you're not using up a lot of memory. Now also another thing that I noticed, which I want to show people, is inside your browser, which computer is actually running slow when it's actually the browser. Resetting it back sometimes help. And also another thing that I noticed on people's computers a lot is having loads of extensions on here. And if you go into more tools here and extensions, some people have an abundance of extensions inside here, and this can slow up the browsing experience as well because you've got far too many of these inside here. So try and keep this to a bare minimum, to something that you need, and just keep a few in here that you want. Okay, the system will start to slow up, and you can remove these by just hitting the little remove dusty bin thing here. You just click on this and it will remove these from the system. So basically, if you're not going to use them, remove it. It's as simple as that. So these are your browser setups that you can do. Another thing that you want to take a look at here is open up your task manager and look at the background processes. Now if you've got a lot of stuff running in the background, this is going to slow up the PC and slow up the system. So you want to remove a lot of those background processes if you're seeing them on there, and also just go into and remove them if you're not going to be using them. Okay, and that's a simple thing to do. Also, we did talk about startup. You can see there's not a lot of startup here, but if there was, you can remove a lot of these from startup, and this is going to make your system run a bit better when you're booting up the system. Sometimes I see people with bundles of stuff in here, and this has to load up all this content before it actually gets to the desktop, and you can see here down the bottom there's nothing inside here, but some people have loads and loads of stuff that has to load up, and it does take a lot of time, and it can make the system seem like it's running slow. So removing those is a good thing to do. Okay, so let's now take a look at the performance options settings. Now if you're running an old computer, right click on the start button here and go system. If you're running an old computer with very little memory installed, and you've upgraded to Windows 10 and it's really slow, then you may need to disable some settings, and this is going to allow you to speed it up. So go into advanced system settings here, and then we're going to go straight into performance under the advanced tab here and click on this. Now once you're inside here, you can see let Windows choose what's best for my computer. So what you can do here is you can adjust for best performance or best appearance. Now you don't want to do best appearance if you've got a slow old computer, so you can either do this one and it will remove a lot of these for you, or you can do a custom one. So if you do a custom one, it lets you remove what you want to remove. So if you want to keep some of these on here, you can do, but just remove which ones you don't want inside here. Okay, and I've done videos on this before, and I've got stuff on my forum and stuff on my website to show you how to set this up here. Okay, but basically remove all the graphical stuff that's going to take up a lot of system resources, so you can set this up. Now also another area of debate, which is always an area of debate, is this area here, which is your virtual memory. Also adjust for best performance You can see here it's set to programs, and you can have background services. Okay, also this virtual memory. Now I hear a lot of people wanting to tweak this and turn it off. In my honest opinion, you should never turn off the page file really, even though people say you can turn it off with 8 gigs of memory. Sometimes Windows does want to access this area, so by disabling it can cause a few issues and it becomes unstable. So you can either set a real minimum custom field here, so there's always something available for it, or you can just leave it to let Windows manage it. Now this has been inside Windows since I can remember, so if there's no need for it anymore, then why do they keep adding it inside? And this is my argument, having it to no page file. Why would you have this inside here if there was no need to have it on there? Surely Microsoft would have took this feature out and set it to no page file, but it will need some swap file there, so you want to just leave this on, I think, for people that don't understand any of this stuff. If you do want to make changes to this area, then you can do, as you can see here, recommended and currently allocated here. So you can make changes in this, and if you want to talk about this, we can do this on the forum or something like that, and we can discuss what you want to change this up to. But personally, I'd leave this well alone and leave it as let Windows manage it. I'm going to click OK here and OK again. Okay, so next up we're going to be talking about malware. So you could have malware on your computer. Now if malware or adware or any sort of stuff is on your computer, it's going to slow it up and make it really sluggish, and you're going to end up with pop-ups and also redirects on your browser and all sorts of nasties like that. So what you want to do is run some scans just to make sure, and you can run scans with free software like Malwarebytes. Also Hitman Pro is another 30-day free trial you can use, and also Zimana anti-malware. Now if you are detecting malware on your system with any of these programs, then you may need to do further investigation and get some help to remove other malware or adware on the system, and they can be pretty tricky to remove. And I've done loads of videos on full guides on this if you want to check those out, but basically run these free, and these will help clean up the system. Now obviously another area is antivirus programs. If you're running more than one antivirus program on the computer and you've installed those on the computer, that will really slow up the system and cause a confliction, and you will end up with serious problems with your computer. So make sure you're only running one antivirus program and one anti-malware program and a firewall, and that's pretty much it. You don't need any more than that, and you should be pretty much good to go. Okay, so another topic that we're going to be covering here is fragmentation of your hard drive. Now pretty much nowadays Windows will take care of defragging your hard drive. So if you have got a very fragmented drive, then what you want to do is defrag your drive. Now you don't want to defrag your drive if you've got an SSD drive. You know, you want to leave that alone. If you've got a mechanical drive, then sometimes defragging the drive will help. Now this is another highly debatable topic about fragmentation and defragging and stuff like that. So it depends whether you want to go ahead and do it. And you can see in Windows 10 they now call it optimize and defrag your drive. Now Windows generally take care of this for you in the background. But when you analyze, now obviously this is a virtual machine, when you analyze your system, it will detect whether the drive is fragmented. You can see it's 8% fragmented here. Now yours, if it's very high, then you want to use the optimize button and defrag that drive. Now again, I can't stress enough, if it is an SSD drive, then you want to leave that alone and don't touch that part. Okay, it will be disabled by default normally by the software when you install it, and it should be disabled. and if it's not, you want to disable that. So another area we're going to be taking a look at is check disk. Now check disk is also, if you've got problems with Windows or issues with Windows, this will cause the system to slow up. And you can see we have check here, which will check the disk to make sure the drive is running and functioning okay, and Windows is functioning okay. A corrupt Windows system can cause the system to be very slow, and that will take more advanced cleaning and fixing if you've got issues with Windows. So if you haven't got those, you'll need to diagnose a lot more and try to fix those issues. If you can't do that, then you want to back up and reinstall Windows if the operating system is beyond repair, okay, or beyond your abilities to repair it. Okay, so let's move on to the hardware side of things, and we're going to do some looking at the hardware. So we're going to right click on the start button here and go system. So installed memory, you can see what it's called, RAM, as it's known here, 2 GB of memory. Now we're running Windows 10 and we've got 2 GB of memory. This is a virtual machine, by the way, before people say you're running an i7 5820 with only 2 GB of memory. So this is a machine, say for instance an old machine that you've upgraded to Windows 10, and now you're wondering why it's running very slow. Well, because Windows needs so much memory to run, and if you've got very little memory in there, then it's soon going to run out. So what you want to do is you may need to check to see how much memory you've got installed. Now if you've got 8 GB installed, you're pretty much okay to carry on with what you're doing. If you've got 4 GB, I would advise you to upgrade to more memory, and if the machine's very old, depends on what type of memory it is, whether it be DDR3, DDR2 even, or DDR4, you know, it depends on what type of memory that you've got. And you can check all that out, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But mainly the amount of memory is what's really important, and the speed. So for instance, we've got 2 GB here, and of course this memory is now not enough to run Windows 10, and it will run really slow. And there's not a lot you can do by doing all what I've been telling you before if you've only got a little bit of memory. So you want to look at upgrading to more memory. And to find out what type of memory you've got or whether you can upgrade, you can use something like Crucial's system scanner, and it will run a system scan on your system, and it will tell you what type of memory you've got, and it will tell you how much space is on there. And there's other ways of doing this as well. I'm trying to keep it simple for the people that don't know how to do it. So basically this is what you'd need to do. If you're not familiar with this sort of stuff and you don't know what to do, then leave it alone and take it to a computer repair shop and let them have a look at it. But memory, I would say if you've got 8 GB, is pretty much the norm nowadays, and it's so cheap and affordable, you definitely want to get to at least 8 GB, I would say, especially if you're gaming and stuff like that. So anyway, another thing we're going to check is whether the memory is failing or whether it's bad, and you can't do that yourself unless you know what you're doing, and you can use software to do that. There is a tool built into Windows which will test your memory. You could just type memory inside here, and you can see Windows Memory Diagnostic. It's a start, okay, to check. So what we're going to do here is just restart and check for problems. And this is going to start to run one of 2 passes here. You can see it will continually run a scan on your system to check whether you've got issues. Now you also do have F1 options there as well. If you wanted to do that, you can see if you click on the F1 option, it gives you a basic and a standard and an extended one. Okay, so if you have a good reason to believe that there may be a problem with your memory, you can use the built-in Windows Diagnostic tool. It's not the best out there, but it's a starting point if you're not familiar with this particular type of stuff. If you are sort of suspicious about your memory, then maybe you need to start thinking about taking it to a computer shop and let them test it for you. But basically this is an option that you can use. Okay, Okay, so another thing that I wanted to cover here is dust inside of a computer. Now, temps and heat kills computers. If you've got a computer that's running real hot and it's really old and it's got a load of dust inside of it, then that can really slow down a computer a lot. And sometimes you need to clean the dust out and maybe add new thermal grease or thermal compound to the CPU to make it run a lot more cooler. And even checking to make sure there's no hardware failure on those parts, i.e. the CPU fan may be failing, or there could be loads of different reasons why it's getting too hot. So clean out the dust and check all the hardware to make sure there's no hardware failure, because that can make a system slow if your system is dying. If the motherboard is dying slowly, then that can also lead to slow systems. Leaky caps, all that sort of stuff can lead to slow computers. So that's the hardware side of things, and I'm not going to go into that too much in this video. Another thing that you can do, which is a real cheap fix, which is upgrade to an SSD, which is a solid state drive, and that is not mechanical, and it will make that drive a lot faster and the computer a lot faster by just a simple upgrade to that. So we'd need to do, I've made videos to show you how to upgrade from a mechanical drive to a solid state drive, and you will see a massive difference in the speed and performance of that computer. Now, I'm not advising you to go out and straight away buy an SSD drive, because obviously if the system is failing and it's old, then that might not make much difference. So you need to make sure that all these things are correct before you start doing chucking money at it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. I hope this one helps you out, guys. I hope the advice has been useful. Most of you probably know that sort of information, but I just wanted to get it across because I get asked this question quite a lot on the forums, and I thought I might make a video just to show you some of the simple steps that you can take. And there's probably loads more that you can add, but we can sit there and talk about it all day long. But the video has already been quite long enough already. Anyway, thanks again for watching, guys. Thanks for your continued support. Bye for now.